Okay, it's recording.
Okay, my name is Tim Creamer. I'm the chair of the Voorheesville Central School District Curriculum Committee. Welcome to the January 25th, 2022 meeting. All members of the committee are present and we are about to proceed. We have a relatively short agenda this evening. We're going to talk about a couple course proposals and talk a little bit about the elementary projected enrollment and budgetary impact. And I'll turn it over to Frank McCree to get us started. Frank?
Okay. So, as we've been talking, we've been trying to get more electives and work on expanding what we have in our arsenal for our students. So, and this is actually one thing that if you look at the survey that we had to our community, this is actually, when I went back and started looking at it more, this was in there regarding more electives, and the two electives that are here actually were stated several times. Public speaking and creative writing were actually requested by community members. So I kind of thought that was interesting. I called Karen up and I said, "You won't believe this." I said, "It's actually already in there." So, this is not a budgetary impact. We already have the teacher here. So we have that, and it was part of our built-in for COVID. So that person's already here and able to do it. So we do know that we can schedule the program. And we do know that we can have students into the program, because if we have too many electives, it lessens the amount of kids that we actually have go into the programs. So we want to have just enough electives that we maybe rotate year in and year out, that we still have the ability for kids to have choice, but we're not having two kids in a class. Karen, do you want to speak about public speaking and
creative writing? These were brought forward by our department chair, Brian Stumbaugh. And they are both half-year courses. Just to fill you in, our current 12th grade program is AP, next year will be AP language, and a year-long AP course. And we also offer college composition and literature and writing, and those two courses are college and the high school. Those two courses, college composition and literature and writing, would now have these two sister courses, public speaking and creative writing. So students would have a little flexibility if they weren't in that AP class in picking. They'd have some varieties, have some choice. So if you take a look at this public speaking, you'll see that it is designed to introduce students to the structures of both extemporaneous and prepared public speaking. The students would do the research and write and then deliver both short and long speeches, both formal and informal. Students would be assessed on their speeches throughout the semester. And at the end, they would have a portfolio of their videotaped speeches, and some commentary and reflection would be involved with the digital portfolio there too. I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about creative writing, and then if you guys have any comments or questions. Creative writing also would be a half-year course to provide some choice to our 12th graders. It's designed to challenge students to write widely in a variety of literary modes of writing. So the students would study some literary works, some exemplars, and then create after reading and studying the poems or short stories or dramatic works. They would probably be looking at doing an adaptation of something that's already been written to make it a dramatic work. Again, they'll be creating a portfolio of the written pieces, and they'd be assessed on that personal digital portfolio. It would be a workshop model. So I think on top of all these skills, you also have things like learning to give feedback in a supportive environment, learning to accept feedback and consider those things, and which is really very college-based in some ways for that kind of an English course.
So we want to dip our feet into the elective arena and start moving forward. These are basically the tried and true electives that most schools offer for English. Public speaking and creative writing typically are like a mainstay staple to have in high school English departments. So we're really stepping in, and then hopefully over the years start building out more electives and more choice and more creative, opportunities for students in literature. But this is the first step in. Question, comments, thoughts?
Would these also be college and high school?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, at this point, they would not. We could always look at Hudson Valley. I know that for SCCC, which is what we do right now, you have to, Brian is the only English teacher right now who would be qualified to do that. So it wouldn't be likely for next year, at least.
HVCC does offer a public speaking course through college and the high school, but again, the teacher has to be approved as well. So it takes a little bit more to get into it. Our goal right now is just to give choice to kids.
Would this be at all available to 11th graders if there is space in the class?
I believe so. The idea is, if a student is going to be taking AP English in 12th grade and they want to take another elective, an elective is an extra course that they can add on. So it can go on towards your core that you need to be able to graduate, or it can be added as a supplemental. It will have preference to 12th graders first, and then after that point, 11th graders and then 10th graders. But after that point, probably won't even get to that level.
It sounded like you were answering the question too, that this could count towards your English requirements.
This
Karen?
would, yes, would count towards the English 12 requirement if you're taking it in English 12. Yeah. So
And
that's
they're
why
not-
I was unsure. We did reach out to touch base with kids, and of course anybody can change their mind, but we wanted to see, were there students in the current 11th grade who would be, interested in possibly doing these electives. And we did have some nice feedback. I'd say there were about 14 from both teachers that said in some way that either both electives or one of the two electives, because you'd be able to do that. You'd be able to take one of the college and the high school for the one semester, say you wanted to do the college composition, but then creative writing, say, was the second semester and you wanted to do that instead of the literature, you could do that. You'd have some flexibility.
So not all English electives can be counted towards the graduation requirement. Karen and I were talking about that with the English chairs. So that's why we really focus in on ones that we know that could double down and, really set that base for us. And then in years to come, depending on interest, because again, we're a smaller school, so it's interest, right? The more that you offer, the more spread you have,
right?
Which means then the less amount of kids that you have in each classroom. So it's a double-edged sword that we just have to watch carefully.
A quick question. I know typically in 12th grade English, one of the first projects is to write your college essay, your Common App essay, if you're going to college. And so if a student was doing one of these classes instead, would there be opportunity for them to work with a teacher to help them with their essay?
I have no idea. That will be a question that we'll have to bring to the principal. That's
Yeah.
We'll bring that. We'll bring that question. Karen, do you want to bring that?
I'll write that down. And
we'll bring that to Rick in the department chairs
department.
and bring that up because that's not an answer that I have.
Yeah, it might be something they could do after school with a teacher or something.
Yep.
Or,
I'm sure people would be more than willing to help.
I would think so too.
But that's a good question.
I think these are terrific additions. An elective implies that I'm taking this because I'm interested in it. And this allows the student to really explore on an individual basis what they might be good at as far as writing and speaking. And those are skills that'll go a long way, no matter what they do in life. So I applaud you guys. I think these are great additions.
Good. Yeah. We're excited that we're starting to dip into this realm and hopefully can add more as we go on through the year, both in English and other courses.
Great.
Wonderful. Shall I move on?
Sure.
All right.
All right, my turn. So, we're talking about enrollment projections and our class sizes and moving forward. And I think it's important that we take a moment to look at where we're going and really kind of see how that budgetary impact is going to end up rolling out in a very conservative model and then in a not a conservative model. So right now, here's what our current sections look like. And this doesn't include, and I think this is important, we added a couple of years ago, when the third grade, the fifth grade was in third grade, right? Yeah, fifth grade was in third grade. We added another section of classes of teachers. So it was 4 and we added 5. And then we've added a new AIS teacher to that mix this year as well. So we are expanding our staffing at the elementary school. And I don't foresee cutting that staffing anytime soon. What I do see happening is I see the expansion and adding more staff to come. Not only because of what we're seeing in class sizes, but what we're seeing in projected enrollments. So right now, here are the class sizes we currently have. And if you look at each teacher, you know, and I'm going to say this like rough estimate, you know, based off of health insurance and base salary, you're looking at roughly $75,000. So, and again, it could be more, it could be less, but that's your rough estimate. So each additional staff member that's added, you're looking at an additional $75,000 onto the general fund budget. That's got to be found somewhere. Either it's taken from other places, or it's, you know, through attrition, or however it is, or it's added on as a tax base. So, you know, if you were going to then add, you know, these 4 sections and add another section and bring those down, you're looking at $210,000 right off the rip. And I think that's why it's important just to explain that in a way that says, yeah, we can change it, but it does add to our expenditures. And the problem for us is we can't, even if we had the funds to do it, we don't have the space to do it. So, you know, perfect world, we'd love to add all those and bring those class sizes down further, but we don't have the space currently at our elementary school to get us to that point. So that is, long run, that's going to be a budgetary issue. Any questions about the current class sizes? Because I'm going to the next slide next.
Frank, I just have a question, just being, you know, in the building and walking around. How recently were these numbers updated?
Today.
Okay, because I know that at least in 2nd grade, I know that we have new ones coming every week, and which is fantastic that we're growing, and there's a lot of, you know, great new friends around, but it's a lot.
It's okay. That's why I want to talk about it, because we're seeing growth, you know, and there's things that we have to plan for in the future to move us forward. And so Karen actually updated it today.
Yeah.
So this isn't perfectly updated, but here is a projected enrollments of what we're looking at. And if you look at 2021-22 for kindergarten, we're at 84. The projected for next year is 116.
That blows my mind.
Yeah. So, and they're coming out of the woodwork already, and that's not usual. You know, with that being said, if we want to keep our class sizes down to 17, 18 in kindergarten, that's what we've typically have done in this district. That means another section. And so budgetary wise, I'm going to suggest as part of the budget to add a teacher to that section. So it'd be 6 sections of kindergarten, which is, you know, a lot, but we want to keep those numbers. I mean, if we want, especially look at retention, look at the past couple of years and how kids have maybe been in and out of programs, having our kindergarten have the most opportunities to be able to get at-risk students and to take up those gaps, that's where you really want to have it first. Then if you end up looking at 4th and 5th grade, it does, if you look at it, it does show that 98, we could then cut a staff member down to 4 sections instead of 5 sections of 4th grade, but that would not be my recommendation. My recommendation was still going to be able to keep all the sections that we currently have. So we'd have 2 grades of 5, 3 grades of 4, and 1 grade of 6. So I'm going to say that again, because it might
3
change.
grades of 4?
Yeah, I'm going to say it again, because I don't want to say 5th grade will have 5 sections or 4th grade will have 3rd section. That's up to Jeff, talking to the teachers based off of the needs. That's a principal decision. What I'm just giving you is the basic kind of numbers of teachers per sections that we'll have per grade level, per the elementary. So we'll have 2 grades that will have 5 sections each, 3 grade levels that will have 4 sections each, and 1 grade level that's kindergarten that will have 6 sections each. If you then look at the continued projections, you can see that we're probably adding a staff member each year for the next 2 years at the elementary school to those sections, if we want to continue to keep the numbers that we have. And again, what we saw last year was we saw our projected numbers, and we saw those projected numbers off by about 30, more than 30. So, these could be even more than we have and more room than we have at the moment. But I think it's important to show you kind of where we're going and what we're looking at.
So for looking at 22, 23, you're saying going down from kindergarten to be 6, 4, 4, 5, 5,
I'm
5?
not saying that because it's up to the principal to look at the sections,
Right.
to the staff about where the needs are. What I'm
Okay.
saying at the moment is what we currently have structure-wise, we have the ability with the addition to have, it could be 6, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, or something like that. That's still keeping the AIS teacher as an AIS teacher that we added last year, not moving that person into a classroom. That's keeping all what we already have in place, and just adding another section.
Frank, where is the 116 projection from?
That is from Jim Southard and I looked at those, and then we took the enrollment projection. So that's what we're looking at 116. We tried to take the highest projection to look at because that's what we did last year. So that's birth rate, survival ratios, and all the other things. So Jim did that number, and we utilized the number and information from our enrollment projection.
And the parents, we asked to register by March or something. I know it can change after that, but
Yeah, so we asked them to start registering in the springtime, but a lot of times we'll still see a bigger influx come June.
right.
So, I'm not, conservatively, I'll say I don't think we're going to have an understanding of our true enrollment until probably July.
Yeah.
And even then it will change. But
And you said you're thinking based on this that we're going to have to add a teacher every year for the next 3 years.
it looks that way because if we want to keep our numbers at a level,
Right.
I showed you in the beginning, I would say just with a quick glance, yes.
But you also said in the beginning that we don't have space to add 3 more teachers.
Yep. And you're on the facilities committee, so you know this. So yeah, so we do have space,
Mm-hmm.
but that space then starts taking away from other things, right? It's taking away from a conference room that we have that Kids Club utilizes. Well, that becomes a classroom. May not be the most conducive classroom, but that becomes a classroom. Basically, what will end up happening, unless we get a facilities project going in the next 2 years, which I can't see us doing at the moment, you're going to utilize every single space humanly possible. By the time that we get a project up and running, then we can be able to spread out, and we'll probably still, like I said, if you're looking at these numbers, we'll have need and we'll be able to have a little bit more wiggle room, but that building's going to get pretty crowded pretty quick over the next 3 years.
Exactly. Yeah. And the 5th grade right now is 114. So they're going to go up to 6th grade. So what are the implications there? Would you have 5 sections?
Jen Droughts has an understanding of how to be able to make it 5 sections.
With her current staff?
With her current staff, yeah. It just takes away, but then again, so we do enrichment programs. So then how do we build those enrichment programs?
Right.
So that's
I remember this.
we have
yeah,
to look at. Is
from the last
we take away from one, we steal from one to give to another, but we're still losing out on something.
Right.
So that's
There's
why
always trade-offs.
Yep, and that's why we're still trying to figure out positive ways to do it, and 6th or other options that we can give people to.
It does seem, from the outside looking in, when we bumped 6th grade up to 5 sections with previous large groups of kids, that it was very helpful to those kids.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest bangs for our buck is improving the crowdedness of a classroom or reducing the crowdedness of a classroom and allowing teachers to spend more time teaching rather than like traffic control.
Frank, I don't want to, if this doesn't belong on today's agenda, I fully understand, but we've only talked in the elementary about, as far as I can remember, about removing the transportation facility and putting it elsewhere, and then reconfiguring that space to be classroom space, office space, whatever, academic program.
Yep.
Is that our only option at the elementary school, or would there be the possibility of building a new addition?
So, Trish, you want to take this because you're on facilities as well?
I mean, I probably know what you know, but from years of hearing people discuss this, Tim, we were told there's no way to add an addition. You couldn't go up. You're limited to go out by the creek and by the right of way of National Grid.
Yeah.
They have a right of way between like the playground and the building.
There's a lot of limitations that go along with it. So that is kind of the problem that you're kind of stuck with. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure if we wanted to be very creative and look at it, I'm sure we could figure out something. I don't think it would meet our needs because we'd have to look at a smaller addition. And nor do I, because if you're taking in the whole transportation aspect, like that is a major issue that people have been talking about for years down there, and the congestion. So no, it's not something viable that, our architects or everyone else kind of looked at, saying that it's not really something that we would recommend or do. Doing the addition and moving the transportation and doing it that way does both factors. It moves the transportation facility out of that area, creates a safer environment, less congested environment, and it also then creates more room.
Oh, that's the optimum approach. I fully agree with that. I just wasn't sure if we were ever going to do it. Just another question: Have those power lines been there a long time?
Oh yeah, they did EMF studies on them, and Trish, how long? Like at least 20 years, right, or longer? I think.
I mean, since I've lived here.
Yeah, they've been there, I think, a long time. The one thing though about building in comparison to refurbishing is you get more aid as well. So, if you're redoing inside of a building in comparison to building a new building, you actually get more bang for your buck. So you can get more. So, and we did, I think, I don't know if we have shared it publicly yet, what the potential elementary school would look like. Have we done that, Trish?
I think we've looked at it in facilities. Which
We have, but I don't know if we've rolled it out yet fully because we're just not at the point yet.
Right. I guess it was just facilities, which is recorded if people wanted to take a look. And then you're working on a potential shared agreement. So we kind of took a pause.
Yeah, because if the shared agreement goes through, it's going to be beneficial for everyone.
Right.
But
I
yeah,
don't know what the timeline is, but I'm looking at, going all the way back on your chart here to 12-13, you had 500 kids in the elementary school. You're going to go to 588 as an estimate.
Mm-hmm.
And as an estimate up to 666. That's way too many kids in that building.
we'll have a project by then.
Okay.
Yeah. My goal is to have a project by 25, 26. One way or another, we're going to find that and do it. It's just, I want to make sure it's the best project that we have and it supports our students and our taxpayers. Make sense on all this? I just want to make sure we kind of had a discussion so everybody had an understanding of how budget impacts and how enrollment impacts and, how everything kind of flows together.
Well, I fully support smaller class sizes and hiring the right number of people. But if we have nowhere to put them, then the point's kind of moot. So that's why I think we really do need more space.
Yeah. And the other issue I'm always concerned with is when the grass is green and you can do it, you hire. And then 3 years down the road, when it's not sustainable because of a funding cliff, you have to let all those people go. And then all those class sizes then increase again. I've been down that road. It's not a pretty road to be down. And, it's actually more detrimental to the students when that happens because they're so used to these smaller class sizes and all of a sudden they boost to, 27, 28, and again, I'm not saying that would happen here, but I have seen it. It's those funding cliffs really do cause issues. And in the next couple of years, New York State could be seeing a funding cliff. So we just got to always keep that in mind as well.
Frank, in general, the budget talk for schools this year, it seems to be in a different place than prior years.
Very favorable.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're for us for the next, at least this year and maybe guaranteed next year, they're fully funding our foundation aid over the next 2 years. So with that being said, and the smart choices that we've been able to make over the past couple of years, we're in a much better spot than in previous years. So it's a good thing. But again, my concern is it's great when things are good. I'm always nervous when that funding cliff comes, or you don't see. It's just like in 2011. If everybody was around or during that time frame, everything was great and money was coming in and there was money everywhere, and all of a sudden GEA happened and there was this huge funding cliff, and then school districts were cutting by the dozens or multiples. I mean, 40, 50 staff members at a time in small districts that couldn't do it.
That's rough. But I think those years of having the smaller class sizes would be so beneficial that it's going to benefit maybe more than the horrific experience of losing that. I would wonder. I just thinking about that cost and benefit.
And
But you need a classroom.
Yep.
That's
It helps.
the real problem we got right here.
Yeah, and money. Let's
Outdoor
remember,
classrooms,
if you're adding $300,000 to the general fund baseline, that money's got to be sustainable for the next years plus increases. So, those are all things that have to become, put into line as well. Small steps in are the best way to do it. They're going both, full forward, because then you're able to build and build upon your budgets. I hope this was helpful. When I was looking at it, I didn't think we've ever done this before, so I want to make sure you kind of saw how it all lines up.
Is there anything else on the agenda?
Can I just ask a question about enrollment? I appreciate that we're looking at the elementary enrollment. I know that in the high school, middle school, high school right now, we have some of those smaller groups that had made their way through the elementary. Is our high school enrollment, middle school and high school enrollment maintaining a healthy volume? What do those numbers look like at this point? Are we?
I know, Kelly, you probably remember that we would have that little bubble, but in between things that were more normal. Like, I think this year's 11th grade is around 92. And I looked that up when we were talking about the English classes, thinking about the following year. We've got a group of 70. That's a smaller one, but then right behind them, we've got a group of 105.
Which are harder to plan for. Those.
The little
roller coaster effect is really hard to. Okay. But we don't see a big dip when kids hit high school. I know that time to time parents might send their kids somewhere else. We don't see that on any sort of regularity of our high school numbers decreasing, or on the flip side, parents, moving in for high school and our numbers jumping significantly in the high school.
Most of our new enrollments are more at the elementary level. I mean, we do get them at the high school levels as well, but they're not even comparable to the sizes that we get at our elementary. And high school is a little bit easier to handle, as long as, when you have ebbs and flows, since teachers aren't by grade level and it's more by content, from a resource perspective, right? It's a lot easier to take a teacher who's English certified and move them anywhere between 7-12, because we have the ebbs and flows, than it is an elementary school when it's one grade level or one class. So, because a math teacher, we can move them there, a social studies teacher. So if grade 11 has 120, but grade 7 only has 60, well, then we can make those things kind of work year to year based off of the certification areas.
And that wouldn't necessarily translate to maxing out allowable class sizes, because although we have the ability to go to 30, that's not a great number. So we're not, as we're trying to maintain smaller class sizes in the elementary, that's not at the detriment of the high school.
No, not at all. I try to, high school classes, I was a high school principal for years. And, I always try to keep the ones, comparable to elementary, 25, 24, 26. There are certain classes that can be up to 30, but you try not to, especially the singletons. Like if you have a singleton, which is you only offer one, and 30 kids want to do it, and you can only offer it to 30 kids, well, then guess what? We're going to make, it's all about offering to kids. But you try to do your best to make sure that those class sizes are all comparable. Not always perfect, but comparable.
Anything else?
This is helpful to see how the budget will be impacted to offer our curriculum. So I appreciate this look.
Thank you. Well, it was Tim's idea like 6 months ago. You said it's good to see things at budget and curriculum. So like I always keep that in mind when we're doing this. But it's important because this directly impacts our budget.
And do we see any other big budget hits for curriculum?
So we do want a reading program,
Okay.
and we've been talking about reading programs here for a while. So the elementary schools really now starting to aggressively start to look at those. Reading programs can be pretty expensive, depending on the programs that you're looking at. But we also don't want to jump in until we have a program that everybody kind of agrees upon, looked at, and is really viable. But that would be the other bigger concern, curriculum-wise of budget. But other than that, budget and curriculum, this would be it.
And what exactly is a reading program? I mean, obviously it involves reading, but
Karen Conroy can
I
speak
was
to that.
wondering
Or
what that
Kelly can
was.
a lot better than I can.
Sure. So there are a number of, like, for lack of a better word, programs that are available. As you know, a lot of what we have done, we have developed locally to go with a balanced literacy program. It's been good and it's worked for us, but we also wanted to look at something that might marry pieces together so that the reading and the writing are coordinated and aligned, while your standards kind of spiral through the K-5 years. There are a number of things out there that we've had teachers talk to us about, that Jeff and I have done a little research on, and we're going to actually start tomorrow with a presentation from one of these programs with our building leadership team to start looking at. So what we'll probably do is do some overviews and then talk to the team about what we'd want to dig into, and really kind of use a rubric just like when we went through with the math group for the bridges, we looked at a number of different offerings. Now they're resources, right? So you're really teaching the standards, and this is a great resource to use, but it's not created for Voorheesville in New York State. So sometimes there are pieces that you are, shifting where you're doing them, or if you're replacing something or supplementing something. So they're all, choices that really have to be thought of with our students in mind and what we want. And a philosophy. They have different philosophies to them as well.
so something that's integrated throughout the whole elementary school, not like a one-off special program for
Correct.
certain kids. Gotcha.
Correct.
All right.
Now we might want to look at, bringing it in more slowly, where we look at K2 first, and then we add in 3-5 or that kind of a thing. But so kind of excited to see some of these. And it's interesting because there are a lot of districts right now. I've just seen on a listserv. Somebody was asking about something with reading programs, and people are either one or two districts have just started with something new, and a whole bunch are looking at what's out there. And so it seems that right now it's a hot time to learn about everything that's going on, and everybody's kind of looking. And I don't know if it has to also do with the fact that we're shifting the standards right now. We're just coming off of, all the hybrid and the virtual and the pandemic issues, that people are really paying attention and aware of what they want now. Because I think those pandemic things have brought out, concerns, made us more aware, made everybody more aware of those things. So.
Where would you introduce the reading piece? Did you mention second grade?
I said K2. So,
K2.
I just said, you might possibly not do everything all at once, but just bring it in K1 or K2 for the first year, and then, or 2 maybe, and then you bring in 3, 4, 5, that type of a thing.
And this would be beginning in 22, 23?
That would be ideal, but I don't think we want to rush anything. I think we really want to make a good choice and make sure that everybody's been thoughtful and really on board, and make sure we have the professional development we need, all those things lined up.
But that there are reading programs in place right now.
Yes. Yeah.
So this would be an alternative, an enhancement, something beyond what we offer now.
Right. What we offer now are locally developed. So it was developed within district, right? So Kelly, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, and we did this a few years ago for math, is that, obviously we've always been teaching math, but over the years, tweaks are made here and there, and there's inconsistencies with language being used with kids, which makes it a little bit more difficult. And by finding a cohesive program, you are not piecemealing it all together, and then there's common language used throughout the building, and that helps the students. I mean, we're certainly doing all of these things, but any sort of streamlined process that, again, marries together the reading and the writing, and you've always got the phonics,
Foundational
and other
stuff.
pieces, and that it can be all together. So it just streamlines it for everybody, the students and the teachers, and allows for consistency when people move grade levels, because we are K-5 teachers, we can go anywhere, and certainly if you move grade levels, having that consistent piece and how it's used, that makes the transition that much easier.
And also reading programs, depending on the program that you look at, they have a track record, right? They have a proven record of where those students perform as well. So if we're seeing a reading program that's maybe going to help our students perform even better, or help us maybe stop some of those gaps and close them, I mean, that's another aspect of looking at those programs. Is what we're doing is good, but there's always better, right? There's always something we can move towards and continually improve for our students. So that's kind of where we're at. And I think it's important that this is something that's just a top-down kind of thought. This is K-5, everybody kind of working together saying, this is something we need for our kids because we want to do more. So,
I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. It seems like this is something that we've been doing in public education all along. And I understand you can always do better, but this seems almost like an acknowledgement we're not happy with what we have.
I like the way that, Tim, I was going to say, I like the way that they're talking about that the teachers are actually talking about, not that we don't like what we're doing, but we can do this better. And what do we do to do this better? And judging from like the adoption of different things, like the adoption of bridges, finding something that has consistency, that, that bridges the K-5, and then also that has the ease of adoption so that it's not a huge learning curve, an adoption curve for the teachers. So I like the way Karen and Frank, you and Kelly, you were mentioning that the teachers are in on this discussion. So it's not like we want a reading program, let's just pick this one. So it's a very thoughtful process of, we have something that's been working, but let's improve it. And let's choose something that we can adopt smoothly, and we'll show the effectiveness that Frank was talking about because it has that track record.
And one other piece to just think about is they always have pieces for, modifications and adjustments for your ELL student or your special education student, or this is where you can extend for students who already understand this concept. And so much of that is right in there for the teacher. So it eases some of the differentiation. And I think a lot of these programs, which we haven't looked at in a long time, it's that whole, it's not your grandmother's, basil reading program anymore, but they have so much now that allows for differentiation and, digital pieces that, we just haven't seen that yet. We're using it in the classroom. I don't mean to imply that we're not, but I mean, in a program itself, the last time people looked at a program here, that wasn't there, So there's a lot to offer, I think, and it's worth looking at and seeing what's out there.
a lot of good things happening.
Very exciting.
I'm sorry, what did you just say, Frank?
I said a lot of good things happening.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else? Okay. Well, you guys have a great afternoon, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
Stay
Take care,
safe.
everybody.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.